Of course, they are also contributing to that. Essentially because one of the key problems now in mountains, everywhere there are no roads. So around, say, when I started to do first expedition in 1996, it would have taken me to take 1 week to rushing the glacier from Manali. Today I can go within 2 hours. So many vehicles are going, and the road conditions in mountain, it generates a lot of dust as well as it generates the black carbon that gets higher into the atmosphere, deposits on seasonal snow, deposits on glacier, reducing its albedo and it enhances melting. So there are regional causes, there are local causes, and there are global causes for climate change which is affecting the glacier. So we should be very clear about that. So more and more development activity, tourism is taking place, which is causing a lot of, so if you look into today's report in Hindustan Times, you will see that persistence of snow cover has significantly reduced over a period of time. And what is the effect of that? The effect of that is twofold, meaning at least. One is snow will disappear very fast. Earlier, snow used to remain in the arrival of monsoon. Now, snow will disappear much more earlier than that, leading towards the drying of mountain spring very early. And as Professor Dimini was saying, that if soil moisture gets reduced because of the departure of the snow, we are starting the forest fire much earlier. So even if now, if we go in month of March or end of February, you might have forest fires in the mountain. So all these things are cycle, and we should be very watchful of.
Thank you. Just a little counter question I wanted to do. The rivers that we have talked about, also we talked about the Indus being the most fragile. So how much of it is actually snow-fed and how much is rain-fed? Can you give us a percentage idea of, because is it true that if the snow goes away, we have no rivers?
What I'm saying, if snow goes away, that means there is no river is not correct statement. But as of now, see, one has to realize the Indus River is flowing in east-west river compared to the north-south rivers which we have in Ganga River. So Ganga and Brahmaputra River receive significant amount of precipitation during monsoon time. Therefore, they have a lot of precipitation. In this basin, as you go, you realize Ladakh and Spiti, so many other regions doesn't receive a significant amount of monsoonal precipitation. It means that river, Indus River, is significantly dependent upon snow and glacier wind. And how much is contribution of snow and glacier wind in Indus River? It is a 60%. So it's around 60% is the contribution of snow and glacier. But it is only one thing. But if you go towards the Pakistan side, you will realize that 90% of their food grain depends upon Indus River. And because of that, it is very sensitive. Any change in the stream runoff of Indus Basin is going to become a very serious issue for states which are in India, like Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, as well as Pakistan part. So you have to realize since considered one of the most vulnerable. You can see one of our papers in Nature which was published a couple of years back. We are saying it is the most vulnerable places in the world due to climate change.
Okay, Doctor, would you like to add anything on this?
We were in Kathmandu, I think it was 2018, and the month of May, we woke up in the morning and then I went out to look at my car. The car was totally black, and then we realized it's not only our car which is black for some reason, but I think everybody has this share of that black. Now, what was it? This was a mud rain which has happened. So then the further probing happened over the next couple of weeks, and we realized that this was something which flew from all the way from Lahore to Kathmandu. So, when you look at the airshed, they move, they have no boundaries. So, what we do in our cities can have serious impact up in the Himalayas. So, that was very good. We had one program in Simon called One Atmosphere to Punjab. So Punjab, Pakistan, and Punjab in India. The atmosphere is one. So what I really want to drive home the point is that what we do downstream definitely has impact upstream. And one country does, even within the region, the Hindu-Kush-Himalayan region, what one country does definitely will have impact. And Bangladesh, obviously, I think we have seen, I think, from our international marketing, how connected we are on the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. So what I would like to actually bring this now to is another part, which is permafrost. Permafrost, most of us, we don't really, I think, Dr. Rathod, in your presentation, you mentioned that we don't have too many studies on permafrost. So I'd like to go back to you once again over there and tell us that what is the limitation? Why isn't, like Arctic, there's so much work on permafrost. Russia is a repository, and all this Ukraine conflict, it gave a data gap in permafrost. So there was a lot of hue and cry about it. Himalaya, we don't hear so much about a lot of glacier talk, but very little permafrost talk. Why?
Permafrost, first time India started from my group in JP. Observation, modeling, AIM methods, it's published. And we are awarded one project to chair. So permafrost genesis is initiated after seeing the impact of the water which is discharged in the form of permafrost in this region. Now it has twofold implications. If it melts or goes up, you have probably more water, yes. But simultaneously, if it's methane, so if you have methane, it will actually grow warming, right? So we are extending this study to permafrost region as of now in the Western Himalaya, and we have almost installed roughly 17 sensors across the 4,000 meter and above elevation. So this field study has been initiated in permafrost in India. Yes, it is very late in that sense, you can say that. But then since Himalaya is very unapproachable, it needs a lot of money to do research. There are many factors comes in. So that is one. In modeling framework, in kind of permafrost genesis, because it's linked with the temperature profiling within that, which should remain similar up to the minimum 2 years time to, as per the genesis of permafrost. Those kind of research is getting interest, and I think I would request youngsters who are sitting in the back to be brave to do the research of the 4,000 meter and above elevation where permafrost is there. That is need of the time also, and slowly permafrost drop. Professor Rathod has shown the cloud studies. They are coming in those kind of even avalanche disaster events like cascading results. This cloudburst, they are getting into the understanding process till the time we have a more observations and then we could goes to the mathematical. So what I need to say that I am the firm believer that I work on the chaos theory. I'm basically physicist. So you have a very chaotic atmosphere, chaotic nonlinear dynamics, chaos theory. But chaos theory, what happens when you try to solve it? After the first Levnov, theory becomes very, very smooth. So that kind of perturbations, what's happening in the Mother Earth also, that it is kind of adjusting to these forcings which are beyond warming, deficit population migration, to the City urbanization has become another problem. Urban city, it's a big problem going to come. Sea level rise. These are the few very, very key issues that the city which is meant. I tell you, we do not have the sewage planning blueprint available in the city. The city which is meant for 100 people, there are 10,000 people at the now, that was the reason that Santa Cruz got flooded because that event in 2006, Mumbai. So these are the few events we have to take into account to planning.
If you can tell us a little bit about permafrost and the permafrost studies that are happening in the Arctic, how dynamic are they?
Sure, thank you. So before that, I have a comment to make on Sir Atos. He said about Lahore, how interconnected. But I must tell you, there are narratives which are placing Indian black carbon in Arctic. These are short-lived climate pollutants, and it's quite improbable that black carbon from India will reach and land up in Arctic. But there are narratives. So I think we should be very cautious about this because they put just as in climate change, the burden is being put on developing countries. So that is an insight. But again, coming to black, the albedo because of the carbon deposit. So it creates a feedback mechanism where reflectivity of the ice, of the land ice and sea ice reduces. It absorbs, starts absorbing more heat, and then leads to a feedback mechanism where it enhances the warming and the ice melt. Coming to permafrost, as I said, in the Arctic there is tremendous infrastructure which is Yamal, which produces 16.5 million tons of LNG every year. It's built on permafrost. I happened to visit Yakutia. It's capital of Yakut. It's the largest Arctic region in the world. The area is close to India's area, 2.8 million square kilometers, and it has a population of just 2 lakhs. Okay, that's how remote that region is. Yakutia is built on permafrost. The city is built on permafrost. Now, the infrastructure, you would recall that a few years back, so as the permafrost melts, the foundations of this infrastructure become weak. A few years ago in Norris, metal, they had an accident where thousands of tons of pollutants leached into the local water. So this is a great problem of permafrost point, and of course, as Professor Dimri mentioned about the atmosphere, I'm talking about and release of pathogens. So just as COVID we saw in 2021, there are thousands of organisms which are believed to be lying below permafrost, and as permafrost melts, and these organisms will become live. So we don't know the dangers yet, but it is stated to be quite a dangerous phenomenon.
Thank you. Now I'm going to list 3 words I'm going to shoot at. And I want really, it's a big issue, but we are running short of time. And I just want to take your quick comments because one is tourism, which is beyond the carrying capacity of tourism. The other is urbanization, the kind of urbanization that Himalayas see. And the third is dams. So, large dams, building large dams. So, 3 things before we just one quick comment before we go into collaborative science in the Himalayas, and that is where I want to bring in the elephant in the room, which is China. So I really want to get there. So if we can just quickly take these.
I come from a eastwood village of Badrinath. So we have this randomness of you are telling tourism and religious tourism. And this is a flooding unplanned. And we people who live for a very small villages there, it's a very difficult problem to live. And such tourism sometimes is becoming very havoc because of the bad practices of these people who are traveling there and doing the nuisance and things. And on the other way, the migration urbanization, yes, cities are growing. How big they can grow, that will have a very, very impactful need on the environment of food, water, security, and all those. another is dam, when you are calling it particularly, I think, on Himalayan region. What I am not this very engineer, but what I understand, dams are made based on proper guidelines, proper assessment of dynamical value, proper siltage, civil calculations. So, but there is a conflict to the local ecosystem, biodiversity, and I think living animal or humans. So that is the quick comments comes in my mind. So maybe wrong. Yes.
Professor.
I have many different things. Essentially, because I club all these three into the development activities. Overall development activities in mountains affect in two ways. Until now, classically, we really look into this problem if we have development activity, whether we have dam, whether we have cities or tourism, what impact the environment is going to have on these activities in the environment. But it is not really only way to look at it. We should look at it is that how changing cryosphere and changing environment going to affect this infrastructure. If you really look into um, hydro recent flood in Sikkim, where this window for last 10 years that South Lona Glaciers is there. There are so many our publications which clearly suggest that dam that is. To construct the dam, you have not asked the question what environmental changes is going to affect this dam. But we ask the question how this dam is going to affect the environment. Therefore, activity in mountain, you should consider the climate change impact assessment report rather than classical environmental impact. So this shift has to take place into the policy making so that we can address the changing cryosphere and its impact on the infrastructure, whatever infrastructure we have. So I think this shift in policy making is absolutely necessary.
Thank you. Comments from Dr.
We read the reports last year. That Namche Bazaar is a base camp for the Mount Everest movement camp here. The communities over there actually make money, because that is the livelihood. They lost out heavily last year because there was so less snow in peak tourist season, and we talked about that. So you're getting more liquid rather than the snow. So how the changing scenario can impact the mountain tourism is one example which you can give us one example. Now the question is tourism definitely. Again get back to the Mount Everest. How even the tourism now, which is actually on such a scale, even Mount Everest is not spared. And if you look at the solid waste and the trash which is created, and you might have seen in movies how many people are trying to disavow and advertising it more systematic. It's just not Mount Everest. Any pristine, no, there's no pristine area to be very frank. There are areas which people love to go and track and hike, but unfortunately, as the areas become more and more accessible, this issue of the impact of that area, the ecology of the area becomes. So I think we have now the concept of destination carrying capacity. So each of the destinations which is open to the tourism, or including the adventure tourism, must assess what is the destination carrying capacity and look at all the elements. And then where is the system of regulations? Even if you know the destination carrying capacity, will you be able to regulate? That needs a strong governance and political will. So that's it. I think Chirana also asked about dam, but I think I look at more from the infrastructure point of view. We know in Himalayas how much of the area in Himalayas actually is zone 5, highly susceptible to the seismic, these seismic zones. And what are the areas which are absolutely fragile that is almost like touch me not? Where are those no-go areas in the Himalayas? How do we really deal with those areas? Where can we cite the water reservoirs? Where we cannot, for obvious reasons. And if we do it, then there is a damage which happens to the infrastructure. There also so much of damage which happens to the ecology, as Gandhi was saying. So I fully agree with him what he said. But it's not just EIA, but you factor in what the whole climate, the way all dimensions of the climate change and assessment. Urbanization, I think you all know, I think all investors are here, you've been going to the cities in the mountains. My biggest disappointment actually was when I looked at Meghalaya. We always have Shillong, Meghalaya, we worked, we go there. We look at the way the traffic has happened in Shillong. But why do we just pick up one city like Shillong? I mean, in general, if you can anywhere. Urbanization, the way it is happening, I mean, nobody can deny that urbanization has to happen. It will happen, and it's a positive thing. But in the mountains, what are those dimensions of urbanization which must be factored in our policy? Unfortunately, that is what we see. So you have problem with the water, you have problem with the soil-based management, pollution. Why do we go to the mountains? People have been going to mountains for clean air, spirituality, and sacred spaces. But unfortunately, there are very few places now left where you can have the peace of
Dr. Rathore, I would just like to take a little question here. Bhutan has levied something $200 fee per day to limit the tourism, something they've done